I'm a podcast on today, the Daddy Issues Unplugged podcast. Welcome, Reverend Olivia Tate. And I will give her a second just to introduce herself and tell us a little about herself in just a second. But I just want to just give a disclaimer that I just believe she's just an awesome person, and she has given me so much insight through our time together and through our sessions together. So I'm just super excited for just everything God is going to pour into this session today, everything he's going to give you to say, and just the blessing that you are. So without further ado, please introduce yourself and tell us who you are.
Thank you so much, Stacy, for having me. It's such an honor to be able to be here and to share this sacred time with you. As you've already stated, so I am Reverend Olivia Tate. I am an ordained Baptist preacher, and I am also a licensed professional counselor. So I get the beauty of integrating these two callings because for me, they're both callings, ministry as well as my professional career as a counselor is a calling as well. And so that is what I get to do on a day-to-day basis. I have my own practice, Flowing Well Therapy Center. I am virtual, so I see clients all over the states of South Carolina and Georgia. And yeah, I'm just glad to be here.
Awesome. I'm definitely glad you're here. So I want to do an icebreaker really quick just to kind of break the ice. What is on your screensaver and why?
Yes, that's a great question. What is on my screensaver is a picture of my family, my spouse and children, and grandchild, because they are what grounds me, and they love me well, and I love them well. So that is why they're my screensaver.
Right, amen. Mine is too. I used to have just a random picture, but then my daughter started messing with my phone, and one day I was like, you know what, this is cute. Let me leave this on here, and it kind of tells about me, who I am, just by like the little snippet of the picture. So yeah, cool,
Yeah.
cool beans. So how's the weather there?
It has been hot, 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 hot. And it's so funny because the weather has been so unpredictable. Like we've had a lot of rainy days and which is unusual for this time of year. And then so it's either been raining or hot.
Mm.
I mean, one or the other. So I'm not complaining. We're just enjoying. We just did some a project in the backyard where we're kind of expanding our outdoor living space. And so it's been pretty neat to sit out there in the shaded area and listen to the birds sing and all that good stuff. So
Mm.
yeah, how about there? How's the weather been?
About the same, kind of hot. It was really really hot. Sunday, and then it looks like it's going to rain today, but it hadn't rained so far. But yeah, it's hot. It's hot.
Yes.
And I'm glad
Yes,
I got my hair
yes.
curly because I don't have to worry about it. It's already
Yes.
curly,
I
but
remember those days before my
e-
locks. Uh-huh.
I'm really really considering locks. I really really am. I really really am. Sister locks. I really am. It's just sometimes my
See
scalp doesn't
here.
cooperate. Okay, so I'm gonna get into some questions, and like I said, I'm just excited. Okay, so first question: what made you want to pursue becoming a counselor and a therapist?
Yeah, that is a beautiful question. So, and I remember very distinctly this call into this side of ministry happened while I was operating in ministry at my church. I was hosting a women's group, and we were meeting weekly, and sometimes having social outings, and things like that. And so I really, because I'm a part of a larger church, this group of women almost became like, a little circle within the church. And I was more accessible to them than our pastor was. He entrusted this group of women to me, and they were coming to me, Stacy, with things. They were coming to me for prayer for things that I could determine or I could ascertain that needed more than prayer. It needed
Hmm.
more than what I had the skills and the knowledge to handle. And so yes, I mean, obviously I prayed with them and loved them through, these various things, but
Hmm.
there were situations that some of them were navigating that really needed some support. They were navigating some traumatic situations, some things from their childhood, and I could see how the behaviors were impacting their life, but I didn't have the resources, I didn't have the information and the tools. So yes, I was referring them out to therapists, and the challenge was is that there weren't enough therapists, particularly Black women therapists, because that's who I was serving, that I
Hmm.
could refer them to. And so sometimes they would end up circling back to me, right? And
Hmm.
so anyway, yeah, that is how I, ended up going back to school to get my master's in clinical counseling.
How long did
And
that
so
take?
yeah, I've been here ever since.
Okay.
So the program I did, it's usually about 2 years, but the program I did was 3 years because in addition to the clinical counseling piece, I also took some pastoral counseling classes as well because I wanted to be able to integrate the faith and the clinical part to it as well. So my master's is in clinical counseling with an emphasis on pastoral counseling. So I was able to, because it was K-Prep accredited, I was able to sit for the licensing board and all of that. But because I took that extra year
Hmm.
of classes, 2 extra semesters, I also had the pastoral counseling piece as well.
Oh, cool. And I love that. I love how you integrate it. And when I was thinking of, because I'm writing a book, and in my book, that I wanted to integrate the faith piece and the mental health piece because they work together. Like we're in this physical world, it works together. Even though we know we're a spiritual world too, but this it works together. And we have to
100%.
acknowledge, yeah, that's the reality, and we have to acknowledge that and be able to work on both sides.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we're
Yeah.
one, unit. Like we're a body with many parts. And so, we don't come here as just one being, just this one solid being, but this one being with many parts. And so, when we talk about ministry in general, so it's just as important for us to take care of our biological, physical body. We go to the doctor, we take, the medications and things like that. But then also, when we have emotional things, particularly again, a lot of my work is centered around the African American community because there is so many misconceptions and so much stigma associated with getting the care that we need. And so being able to take care of our full selves allows us to be able to move freely, throughout the world and do all the things that God has called us to do. But sometimes trauma can have us bound, or sometimes physical limitations can have us, limit the way that we can move. Sometimes biological stuff, can have us limited. So we have to take care of all of these parts of ourselves so that we can live our best, the best version of our lives.
Hmm. Amen. You mentioned something that the stigma. Why is there such a stigma, and especially in the Black community, when it hits all communities, but especially in the Black community about counseling? Why is there such a what have
Yeah.
you found? The
Yeah,
reason.
so one of the biggest parts, what the research shows is that it is a part of the respectability politics that in the Black community that kind of derived out of the Jim Crow era, which kind of derived out of, the enslavement period, right? So when you think about, particularly within Black families, we've been taught for generations what goes on in this house stays in this
Uh,
house, right?
yes.
So whatever we have going on, you don't, talk to anybody about what's going on in here. Well, the the history from that is that when our enslaved ancestors were planning their escape,
Hmm.
they didn't know who to trust. Not, because there were people planted, black people planted within the community that were,
Hmm.
going back to the master, going back to the colonizers and telling them what was going on, right? And
Hmm.
so they would say, by all means, tell the children and whoever was there, by all means, whatever you hear us saying here, don't go and talk about it outside of this house. Only those that are inside this house, should have access to this information. So then that got passed down with no explanation. It got passed down from generation to generation. And so we learn not to trust, people outside of the house because we don't know who's for us and who's not for us, right? And then, during the Jim Crow era in the 70s, 60s, and 70s, somewhat of the same thing is we don't want the people outside of our house to think we don't have it together. So that's
Yeah.
why even now you don't see that as much with the Gen Zs. They live in free, and I love that for them. But when you see the Gen X and then some of the millennials, they
Hmm.
typically dress nicely when they're going to the doctor or to the bank, and that comes from that respectability politics. I'm going to look nice so that maybe I'll be respected, maybe I'll be safe, maybe I'll be taken seriously
Hmm.
in these business relationships or what have you. So yeah, it's very layered, that stigma piece, because when we think about having people think that we don't have it all together, that could present an unsafe situation for us. And so, yeah, that's kind of in a real short nutshell
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
that stigma stems from.
Mm. Mm. And because I know I've heard it. Oh, you going to the crazy doctor? You going? You're loony if you go to psychiatrist. But like me myself going, I realized that man, it can really be helpful to work through things and to navigate things and to get stuff out, to be able to express things that you really don't have language for. That has been most helpful to
Yes.
me. Yes.
Yes, absolutely that,
Yeah.
because we only know what we've been exposed to. So yeah, and then the other piece is that in general we become such private people. There are so many things that we don't talk about, like we just
Hmm.
know no, don't discuss with anyone, and so we
Yeah.
just been carrying it. And so when you have the safety of a therapist, you don't have to worry about judgment. You don't have to worry about them looking at you sideways like, oh, girl, like, I can't believe that you actually said that or that you actually thought that. Right. And so to be able to share without any fear of judgment or, consequences and things like that is such a gift. It is
Hmm.
such a gift.
Yes, yes, because I know I have expressed and shared some things with you over our sessions that I'm not gonna lie, I was looking, I was telling you, and I felt like I was in a safe space to tell you and express some things and to like tell you some things that happened, but I was still kind of looking at the corner of my eye to see if I saw like a, oh, like a little twins, like, you really, you thought like that? I have not seen it at all. At all. I don't look for it no more. Of course, when I first, was getting to know each other, I was getting to know you. I was, because that's what you used to. You say
That's
something
it.
that you think is
Being
crazy. You
judged.
Yes, you used to people judging you, and so yes, I mean, yeah, I have not seen it at all. And I don't even look for it no more because I feel like I'm in a safe space, and you have definitely created a safe space for me. So that I can feel free to,
Thank you.
say anything. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Yeah,
Thank you
you're
so much.
very welcome. My honor.
So another question I have for you was, not sure if you had a chance to, well, you know the attachment styles. I know my very first two episodes, I was with Morgan Washington. Shout out Morgan.
Hey,
We talked
Morgan.
about, yeah, Morgan. We did the attachment styles. And I know some versions call them different things, but I was just curious, does any attachment style kind of that you see more just in your experience so far? in your practice, or just yeah.
Yeah. So I would say the people, and keeping in mind you're asking me about people who I see in practice, which means that these are people who are coming, who acknowledge that there is something that they need support in. So we're
Hmm.
not just talking about the general population or public,
Right.
versus
Hmm.
people who are actually in therapeutic service, and that
Hmm.
context matters, and so
Okay.
within the therapeutic space, I would say it's more for me. I've seen more of the anxious and the anxious avoidant type are probably the most common. And once again, when we're talking about like mental health issues, anxiety and depression, and there's different types of anxiety and depression, are the
Hmm.
most common types of mental illnesses that are typically going to be treated in a private practice type of thing, unless the therapist specializes in something else specific or what have you. Those are
Hmm.
the two most common mental illnesses that we would treat. And that matters because in many of those cases, it is directly related to trauma, whether childhood trauma or, trauma during the childhood or what have you. So sometimes it is these maladaptive behaviors that we've learned in order to manage the traumatic experience that in many cases these women have never talked about before coming into the therapeutic space. So yeah, the anxious and the anxious avoidant. And the avoidant piece is really interesting to me too, because I think, and there's some research around this, is part of the avoidant piece within the Black community. It is because we when we talk about the avoidant piece, we have to talk about the respectability politics piece, right? So where when we were growing up, so I'm a Gen X generation, and when we were
Okay.
growing up, children did not have a voice. They didn't have opinions, or we had them, but we didn't have the freedom to express them in the way
Right.
that, many of us are teaching our children and grandchildren to do, right? So part of the avoidant piece, I think, is because as children, we really weren't given autonomy to express opinions and to have thoughts and things like that. It was, do what you were told, be seen and not heard. And so we go through life with these opinions or these feelings about things that we never get the opportunity to express. And that is traumatic in and of itself, to go through the world really not being heard, not being seen. And so I think like one of the challenges we have, particularly with being effective communicators, is that many of us we didn't get to practice those skills during childhood, right? And so that impacts
Oh, that's
our attachment
interesting.
style.
Mm. So, I'm pulling from a question. I think I got a little later, but since you're there, since you mentioned it, is there anything that we can do now, like raising our kids, well, my kids are grown, but my grandkids, to kind of help them, give them that voice without giving them too much power? Because they still gotta be respectful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that's a beautiful question, and so I'm going to answer your question with a question: is where does our definition of respectful and respectability come from, right? So I think that that's one of the first pieces that we have to answer is like, and I'm gonna tell on my own self first, right?
Okay.
So what I understood to be respectful or disrespectful as a child was asking questions, because I was a question asker, and here I am as an adult. I ask questions for a living, but as
Mhm.
a child, that was considered disrespectful. So as now, as someone raising children and grandchildren, I have to be mindful of, is this child being disrespectful or are they learning? are they genuinely curious about whatever it is that they're asking this question about, right? Like, are they just being disrespectful, or are they frustrated because they're not being heard? So yes, you stomped your foot, and it's not okay for you to stomp your foot, but it's also not okay for you to feel unheard. So instead of me getting mad with you and yelling, because I can't regulate my own emotions, so I'm yelling at you. Instead of
Mhm.
doing that, let me ask a question. Let me follow that up with, okay, can you tell me what's happening with you right
Right.
now? Can you
Right.
tell me what
Yes.
you're frustrated about? Can we talk about, these big feelings that you're having? And so I'm empowering her to be able to advocate for herself and to help me understand why she's frustrated, because maybe she's frustrated because she didn't understand the direction I gave her. I told her to go clean her room. In her mind, I cleaned my room already,
Hmm.
but you're not even letting me tell you that I already cleaned my room. You're saying go clean a room. So now I'm mad. And now I'm stopping down the hall, going to my room to go sit in there because you wouldn't let me tell you that I did clean my room. Do you see
Yes.
how that could seem disrespectful, but it's not really intended to be disrespectful. It is the frustration of being unheard and not covered. And so if you think about us as adults, we're frustrated when we're not listened to too,
Oh yeah, you won't
right?
listen to me. Yes. Yes.
But we
Yeah.
expect them to just be okay with it and go la di da di da, and let me skip on down the hall and go clean up the room that's already cleaned up, right?
Right. Right. That's so good. Yes. And you made me think
Yeah, so
about go no 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 go ahead. Go ahead.
So to finish your question, the answering your question is, what can we do? We can find ways to regulate ourselves first so that we're not yelling, we're not popping, we're not, disrespecting them. We're treating them like they're humans, right? And we're
Hmm.
treating them like humans. So I
Hmm.
think that is how we begin to present them with a different life and a different experience than what we had. Because the whole idea to a secure attachment is feeling secure and feeling loved and feeling like I can ask questions and I can feel big feelings, but I'm still loved even when I feel big feelings or when I
Hmm.
stomp my foot, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You made me think about, man, that was good. Man, that was good. That was good, Reverend Tate. Um, you made me think about my grandbaby because me and my daughter have conversations since I've been in therapy. We've had conversations, and she's let me know that as a child, as a teenager, sometimes she didn't feel heard. And I'm like, I was just trying to survive, okay? As a parent. And I'm like, I'm trying to pay the bills, I'm, working hard, making sure the lights not getting turned off. And I'm like, what could you have possibly been so worried about or so stressed about when you ain't got to worry about paying a light bill? Right. But she helped me realize by being in therapy with you and also talking, letting her express herself. And she's 30, almost 30 now, that even in her world, there are stressors that are just as impactful and just as heavy in her teenage world than we have in our adult world. And so that helped me
Yes.
see that when I was talking to her. And so now, like the other day, my grandbaby went stomping out yelling, "Ah!" And I'm a yeller. My daughter would tell you, I'm a yeller. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. But I didn't yell at her that day. I was like, nope, come here, come here. What's the problem? And she was like, I said, nope, I need you to use your words. And I need you to tell me what you're feeling. And so we were able to talk, and she was like, well, and she was able to explain what happened and why she felt it. I was able to explain, look, this is why we told you not to do this. This is why you got in trouble. And so I can definitely
Yep.
see that helping. So now she can express herself now and feel safe,
Hmm. Hmm.
and heard. Yes.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
messed up with her, but my daughter, but I'm making it right with my grandbaby. So I'm trying.
Right, because we're older and wiser now. Like we have more information and experience than we had,
Yes.
when our children were children. And it does matter. I mean, it doesn't excuse it, but it does, matter that we know more. And so as we teach them things that we didn't know, we're positioning them to be better humans, better, I was getting ready to say better children, but just better humans
Hmm.
and more sympathetic, empathetic, and all of that because they have tools
Hmm.
that we're giving them tools as children that we didn't have as children, nor did we really have to give our children maybe at the time that we had them. So yeah, it's definitely a learning process. That's in my opinion, when we talk about breaking generational curses,
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
spiritual. Some of that is spiritual for sure, but some of that is this simple practical stuff like learning how to, instead of yelling, let me regulate myself because the reason why I'm yelling is because I'm dysregulated. And the fact that I'm dysregulated is not your fault. And I'm
Yeah.
talking about yours as in terms of you or the child or whomever.
Hmm.
No matter what is going on around me, if I'm yelling, it is my own dysregulation and no one else's. And so I need to check myself. I need to find ways to center myself so that I can operate in the way that gets my needs met. And yelling at you is not going to get my need met because
Right.
you're not going to be able to receive it.
Yep.
Or if you do what it is I want you to do, you're doing it begrudgingly. Now I have fractured the relationship, which still means that I don't get my needs met because having a close relationship, a nurturing relationship is also important to me. So I want to preserve the relationship and I want to get whatever it is that I'm asking of you to get that done as well. So how do
Hmm.
I do both?
Yes. Yes. So wow, that's wow. That's good. Thank you, Holy Ghost, for coming in. Because I think that that is definitely that is definitely important and definitely needed. Because I could say, well, my mom was a yeller, my dad was a yeller, but we have the choice now. We have the choice now to change that. We don't have to be the yeller anymore, and now that we're we're opening up more about therapy and these emotions that we have and how to regulate them. Now we have tools, like you said. Now we have tools, and we can teach our kids those tools or show them the tools. They'll be way ahead of where we were
Yeah.
as a grown person. So yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that was good.